And now you're not going to want to miss this part. And that's what it looks like. Hello, welcome to Waypoint Survival. Today we're going to talk about a little known fire lay that you're going to like. Stay tuned. Most campfires are made to burn quick and bright. A teepee for speed and draft, a log cabin style for drying out wet wood quickly. However, the early woodsmen of the 20th century and before that knew a lot of old tricks of the trade, as it were, and these were passed down from word of mouth, generation to generation. Some of them have been all but lost today, and the fire that I'm going to show you today is no exception. In early woodcraft, there was a style of fire that you would build when you wanted long, constant heat that would last through a large part of the night. One of the worst things about camping out, especially in cold weather, is that sometimes every hour, hour and a half, you're getting up to put more sticks on the fire. It prevents you from getting a good night's rest. So what you really want is a fire that basically tends to itself, a fire that doesn't require constant feeding. It is a fire that is built and intended to last as long as possible. It's not a massive blaze to impress everybody and drive everybody away from it, but rather a warming fire that is built to endure the long, cold hours of the night. The woodsmen of that era called it the Vigil Fire. Let's get to that right now. Now, when you're ready for your Vigil Fire, you want to already have a good fire going and a good bed of coals. That is absolutely critical to what we're doing here. So you want to make sure you've boiled all your water, you want to make sure that you've cooked all your food, and that the fire lay itself is well established. That's a very important point. So the first thing that we've got to do is we've got to head off into the woods with our hatchet and our little small pocket saw, as I showed you in the last video. Something like that. Something that's easily carried in a coat pocket, and the hatchet, of course, in the belt around our waist. And we're going to try to find a dead standing tree that is maybe 5 to 7 inches in diameter. So, you know, not too big, maybe about as big around as your face. But again, just a good size that's easy to cut down. Now, keep in mind that when you are traveling by yourself and you only have a small axe or a small saw, it's going to take you a long time to cut down something big. Many of the woodsmen would carry a larger size axe, and this especially works good if you're in an area where there's been a lot of logging and there's a lot of downed trees already. So keep your eye out for that, but especially what you're looking for is dead standing timber, preferably some kind of hardwood. All right, let's go find some wood. All right, so what we're looking for is something like this. It's a dead standing tree. I can tell by looking up there's no small branches or anything. Down here we've got a spot where the bark has already started to come off, and I can see there's a woodpecker hole here, so it's slightly hollow. So this is definitely what we want. And we of course use the saw that I showed you in the last episode, or we could always use the small hatchet. Now you do want to start a little ahead of time if you're going to use a hatchet this size to cut down something this big. And remember, we only need a piece of wood that's about 5 to 7 inches in diameter. Actually, we need 3 of them. So we got to bring this down. As dead standing timber, it's not going to be wet. So this is exactly the kind of thing that the woodsman would have looked for. Once we get that cut down, we get to carry it back to camp. All right, so we've got a couple here that's pretty much exactly what we're looking for diameter wise. And these are our 2 base logs. They're the 2 biggest ones. You want them between 2 and 4 feet long. These are about 3 feet long or so, or just roughly under 1 meter. Get the idea there. I'm going to put them down. All right, we're going to need at least 1 more, but that's only going to get us through part of the night. So what we're actually looking for is anywhere between 6 to 9 of these, because we're going to need a total of 3 for each lay. Let's get that done. 2 more to go. And here's the last 2. The next and most important step that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to get a piece of green wood. Now this is just a piece of hickory. It's a limb and it is green. Now I don't mind cutting limbs off. This one was hanging out over an area where it was going to be trimmed anyway. So we need this, and you ideally want something about the thickness of your thumb to start off with. This is a little thicker, but that's okay. You're also going to want to make it about shoulder width. So depending on the width of your shoulders, say, a couple of feet, something like that, and you're going to want 2 of these. So very important to cut these off. I'm going to show you how to do that. Again, I'm just going to use the hatchet. We're just going to use the end of this as a sort of an anvil. So there's the first one, and then we're just going to measure alongside of here, and we're going to make the second one. All right, so here we got them about shoulder width, not perfect, but again about what we want. Now we got these done. I'm going to lay these down by the fire, kind of keep them from getting too wet, although we don't really want them too dry, and you'll know why here in a minute. And then we need to cut a couple of more, but they don't have to be that exact width. They can be a little bit less than that. Okay, so what we've ended up with is a couple of shorter, smaller sticks. And again, we're using the same branch, so thumb size, pretty close. This one's pretty close, a little bit smaller, but it will work. All right, now for the trick. All right, using our little green stick we have left over here as a poker, go ahead and stir this around just a little bit. Get these coals arranged a little bit better. And all we're doing is we're just kind of spreading them out, but trying to keep them together as much as possible. And this will make sense to you here in just a little bit. Now it's important that you keep this away from your log wall. So you may have to rake it out a little farther forward. Next, we're going to take our 2 biggest logs. These are going to be our base logs, and we're going to put them right on the back. It's like that. And we'll put this one on this side, just like this. And we're going to kind of squeeze them together. Taking our poker here, we're going to try to lengthen this out so that's pretty much the whole length with these nice hot coals. Something like that. But here is the secret to the success of this fire. You're going to take this stick, thumb-sized stick, and you're going to put it underneath the logs. One here and one here. You do the same thing to the other side. So even though you really can't see it, we've got increased airflow because of those little sticks. Again, the one there, and then on the other side, holding that up just a little bit up off the log. Next, we're going to take the other 2 sticks and we're going to place them here, again, toward the ends. We don't want these sticks to burn up, so make sure it's down toward the end of your logs, and they do need to be green. Then we're taking the next one and we're putting it on top just like this. Now you do want to make sure that these are shoved as close together with the pile of coals, and again, make sure you've got your green sticks out to the ends. So here you can see, again, a little bit better. See how much space we've got behind the reflector wall and the logs. Now, as this fire burns, we're going to want to make sure and move these logs here, because again, they will catch, and those are for our next 2 a little later on in the evening. Of course, you will need to cut some more green sticks in advance for this, because these will burn up. But you can see here, we've got a stick here and on the bottom, and the same thing on this side, here and the bottom, and they're out to the edges so that they will last as long as possible. At first glance, it looks almost too simple. Just 3 logs. No fancy notches, no clever joinery, and yet it will burn for hours longer than a normal fire. Sometimes longer even than a fire twice its size. So I know somebody's going to say, well, how long does it burn? Well, that's really going to depend on the diameter of the logs, the size of the logs that you use, as well as the type of wood that you use. Now, what we have here is walnut. It's a hardwood. We've got a lot of it around here, and it was a dead standing tree. It's not good for anything really, so might as well use it for a good hot fire. However, on average, 5 to 7 inch logs, if they're the right kind and not really rotted, if they're good solid wood, you're going to get 2, 3, maybe even 4 hours out of this before you need to rebuild it again and put more logs on and more small sticks. So once again, what makes this fire so effective? The Vigil Fire, in other words, a fire that will keep vigil all night while you sleep. Well, the secret isn't just the logs, and it isn't necessarily the shape, even though that triangle is important. No, as I said before, it's the space between those logs. You must have those little sticks. The old books called them draft sticks. They lift the wood up just enough to let the fire breathe. So it's not a fast fire, it's not a fierce fire, it's just slow and steady that will last for hours. And remember, this isn't a fire for cooking, even though in the morning you'll have plenty of coals. But this is a fire for burning steadily all night and keeping you warm while you're in your structure, whatever you've built, tent, whatever it may be, simple lean-to, it doesn't matter. This with that reflector is going to work very well. It's simple to make, it's easy to remember, and almost entirely forgotten by a lot of outdoorsmen until now. I wanted to bring this back to you. Now, while as far as we know, Horace Kephart never specifically named a fire lay called a Vigil Fire, he was certainly familiar with the principles behind it. The idea of a low-maintenance, long-burning fire, one that conserved fuel, managed draft, and required little tending, it's exactly the sort of practical woodcraft that Kephart advocated. His emphasis on thoughtful fuel selection and controlled fire behavior lays the groundwork for a fire like this, even though he never gave it a name, and we do know that old woodsmen used it. So if you want a good long night's rest in cold weather and not have to get up to tend the fire every hour or so, give this a try and rest easy, knowing that your fire is going to burn well for a long time. One other very important tip about this kind of fire, because it's so close to your shelter, you want to make sure that it's not made from wood that pops and spits and cracks a lot and throws out a bunch of sparks. As you can see, this kind of fire, it's burning steadily, but it's not going to burn up my shelter. And that's why it's so nice for this kind of layout. This is James Bender for Waypoint Survival. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Also make sure and check out the links in the description box below, just under the More button. While you're down there, you'll find the link where you can sign up for our Waypoint Survival digital class. This is where you can train in the comfort and convenience of your own backyard the top 20 skills that we consider to be the most important from our Phase 1 Survival and Bushcraft class. You'll also find where you can sign up for the Waypoint Survival and Prepping 101 newsletter. Absolutely full of great ideas, things that you're going to want to print out and keep for your preparedness goals. You'll also find waypointsurvival.com, and this is where you can sign up to take in-person classes here at our beautiful training facility in Southern Ohio. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel. We'd really appreciate it. And when you do subscribe, make sure and press that bell button so that you can stay notified of all of our upcoming videos, and we'll talk to you next time.